Welcome back to Church Unplugged. This is the space where we talk about church life, the way people actually experience it. Not just the way it shows up in annual reports or leadership meetings. Today I want to spend some time on something that shapes every church. Whether people realize it or not, how decisions get made. Not just the final decision, the process. Who is in the room? Who isn't? And how those choices ripple out into the life of the congregation. Because most church conflict doesn't start with theology. It starts with decisions people don't understand. So stay with me, Church Unplugged. Let's talk first about money. Because that's usually where the tension shows up. Every church has a budget, and every budget tells a story. It tells you what the church is afraid of losing. It tells you what the church hopes to grow. And sometimes it tells you that the church has quietly given up. We don't like to say that part out loud. Budget meetings tend to sound spiritual. There is a prayer, there is talk of stewardship, and all of that matters. But underneath, there are real trade-offs happening. If we fund this ministry, we can't fund that one. If we add more stuff, we delay repairs. If we keep everything running the way it always has, we may not have room to try anything new. And here's the hard truth. Most people in the church don't actually want control over the budget. What they want is confidence that the people making those decisions are listening, praying, and paying attention. When churches get into trouble financially, it is rarely because of one bad decision. It's usually because decisions were made in isolation and communication came too late. Which leads naturally into vision. Vision sounds inspiring, isn't it? It shows up on banners and websites and sermon series. But vision is also deeply practical. It's what shapes the budget before anyone ever opens a spreadsheet. Here's a question I don't think churches ask often enough. Is our vision something people recognize from their own experience of this church? Because vision can drift into abstraction. It can become aspirational language that doesn't quite connect to how the church actually operates day to day. Healthy vision is clear, but it is also shared. It doesn't mean everyone agrees on everything. That's not realistic, is it? It means people understand where the church is going, even if they wouldn't have chosen that direction themselves. And that kind of clarity doesn't come from a single announcement. It comes from repetition, from stories, from leaders explaining not just what they are doing, but why. Now let's talk about leadership, because this is where decision making becomes personal. Leadership changes expose everything. The culture, the trust level, the assumptions people have been carrying for years. When a pastor leaves, people don't just grieve a role, they grieve relationships, they grieve stability. And sometimes they grieve the version of the church they thought would always be there. I've noticed this. Churches that handle leadership transitions well don't necessarily have fewer problems. They just talk sooner. They just talk more honestly and with less spin. They are always willing to say, here is what we know, here is what we don't know, and here is how decisions will be made going forward. That kind of transparency feels risky, but secrecy costs more in the long run. There's always a theological layer to all of this that we can't ignore. The New Testament shows us shared leadership, accountability, and discernment happening in the community. Not chaos, but control, not control either as well. Decision making in the church was never meant to be efficient in the corporate sense. It was meant to be faithful. That doesn't mean endless meetings. It means decisions shaped by prayer, wisdom, and a real concern for how choices affect the body as a whole. When churches forget that, decision making becomes transactional and people feel it, even if they can't, name it. So maybe, friends, a few questions worth thinking about this week. How are decisions communicated in your church? Do people hear the reasoning or just the result? Who has a voice in shaping the future and who doesn't? And is it that intentional or just the way things have always been done? My friends, does the way decisions are made reflect the kind of community the church says it wants to be? These are uncomfortable questions, isn't it? But they are necessary ones. Because at the end of the day, healthy churches aren't the ones that avoid hard decisions. They are the ones that make them with humility, with clarity, and a willingness to bring people along. That's what builds trust. And trust, more than strategy or structure, is what keeps a church grounded when change comes. Thanks for listening to Church Unplugged. If this episode stirred something, it might be frustration, curiosity, maybe even relief, you are not alone. We will keep having these conversations because the church is worth telling the truth about. See you next week. Church Unplugged. Thank you.